There are two kinds of people walking through the same world. The person who believes life is happening to them, and the person who believes life is being shaped by them. And the strange thing is that both people can have the same schedule, the same job, the same family responsibilities, the same financial pressure, the same delays, the same disappointments, and even the same painful past. Yet their lives can look completely different a year from now. Not because one got a miracle and the other got ignored, but because one learned the quiet power of attitude. Attitude is not a personality trait you're born with. It's a daily decision you practice, and the longer you practice it, the more it becomes your default, the same way slouching becomes your posture if you sit that way long enough. And confidence becomes your posture if you stand up enough times after being knocked down. When we say, change your attitude, change your life, we are not talking about pretending everything is okay. We're not talking about smiling through pain like nothing hurts. And we're not talking about denying reality, because a strong attitude isn't denial. It's direction. It's the internal steering wheel that decides whether you turn a problem into a prison or a problem into a lesson. Whether you turn pressure into panic or pressure into purpose. Whether you turn setbacks into shame or setbacks into strategy. The world will always provide reasons to be negative, and you don't have to go looking for them, because life is naturally filled with delay, criticism, inconvenience, and uncertainty. So if you let your attitude be determined by your circumstances, you will spend your entire life on an emotional roller coaster controlled by whatever happens next. And that is one of the most expensive ways to live, because when your emotions control your actions, you make choices that feel good in the moment but cost you later. You quit too early, you speak too harshly, you avoid. What you need to face, you trade discipline for comfort. You trade long-term growth for short-term relief, and then you wake up months or years later wondering why nothing changed. What changed is what you tolerated, what you repeated, what you fed your mind, and what you decided about yourself when nobody was watching. An attitude is not just a mood, it is a belief system. It's the story you keep telling yourself about what things mean, and the story becomes the strategy of your life. Because if you keep telling yourself, I'm unlucky, your strategy becomes waiting, complaining, and hoping someone rescues you. But if you tell yourself, I'm responsible, your strategy becomes learning, building, and taking the next step, even when you don't feel ready. If you tell yourself, nothing ever works out for me, you stop trying. And then that statement becomes true, not because it was destiny, but because it became your behavior. The mind is powerful like that because it doesn't just describe reality. It often creates it through repetition. The good news is that if repetition can build a negative attitude, repetition can also build a powerful one. And the day your life begins to change is the day you stop acting like you need the perfect environment to become the best version of yourself. Most people are waiting for motivation as if motivation is a visitor that will arrive someday and knock on the door, but motivation is often the result of movement, not the cause of it. And if you sit still waiting to feel inspired, the only thing you will become is older with the same problems. A stronger attitude says, I don't need to feel perfect to move forward. I need to be committed. Because commitment doesn't ask you how you feel. Commitment asks you who you decided to be. And that's the first shift that changes everything. Stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what am I going to do about it? Because the first question trains helplessness and the second trains power. Yes, life can be unfair. People can disappoint you. Opportunities can be delayed. Paperwork can move slowly. Money can be tight. And responsibilities can feel heavy. But the moment you decide that your response matters more than your circumstances, you take your power back. The person with a winning attitude doesn't always have an easier life, but they have a stronger inner life, and strength inside changes outcomes outside. They don't waste energy arguing with reality. They use energy improving their reality. They don't spend their day collecting excuses. They spend their day collecting skills. They don't live in constant reaction. They live in intentional response. And if you want proof that attitude changes life, look at any any area where you've ever improved, your health, your fitness, your education, your work, your relationships, your discipline, even your confidence, improvement always started when you decided something meant something different, when you stopped saying, I have to, and began saying, I get to, when you stopped seeing effort as punishment and started seeing it as investment. And that is an attitude change, because I have to makes you feel trapped, but I get to makes you feel grateful, and gratitude is not weakness, it's fuel, because it takes your eyes off what's missing and puts your eyes on what's possible. Some people think gratitude means you settle, but real gratitude does the opposite. It gives you energy to build because you're no longer draining your mind with bitterness. The bitter mind is always tired, always irritated, always offended, always looking for proof that the world is against them. And when you train yourself to see the worst, you will find it everywhere. But when you train yourself to see opportunity, you will find that too, because your brain is a search engine, and it will return results based on the question you keep asking. Ask, what's wrong with my life? And it will show you everything wrong. Ask, what can I build from here? And it will show you options you didn't notice before. And this is why your attitude is not a small thing. It is the question you repeatedly ask your own mind, and the question becomes the direction of your focus, and focus becomes your reality. Now let's be honest about something. Many people keep a negative attitude not because they enjoy suffering, but because negativity feels like protection. If you expect disappointment, you won't be surprised. If you assume people won't help, you won't risk being let down. If you tell yourself you can't win, you won't feel the pain of trying and failing. Negativity can feel safe because it keeps you from hope, and hope feels risky because hope can break your heart if things don't work out. But living without hope doesn't protect you. It slowly destroys you, because you cannot build a life you love while constantly rehearsing why it won't work. You can't protect yourself into a better future. You have to build yourself into it, and building requires the attitude of courage. Courage doesn't mean you aren't afraid. It means fear doesn't get the final vote. The courageous attitude says, I will apply again. I will learn again. I will show up again. I will train again. I will start again. And that again is where winners are made, because success is rarely one big moment. It's usually small steps repeated longer than most people can tolerate. And this is where attitude becomes discipline, because discipline is simply attitude in action. Discipline is the attitude that says, I will do what needs to be done even when it's boring, because most of the work that changes your life is not exciting, it's repetitive, it's quiet, it's unglamorous, and it often happens when no one is clapping for you. If you wait to be celebrated before you work, you will never build anything worth celebrating. And yet people do it every day. They make a plan and then break it when it gets uncomfortable. They start and stop. Start and stop. And they think the problem is their ability. But many times the real problem is their attitude toward discomfort. They treat discomfort like danger, when discomfort is often simply growth in progress. Your muscles don't grow without resistance. Your mind doesn't grow without challenge. And your life doesn't grow without change. And change will always feel uncomfortable at first. The attitude that changes your life is the attitude that says, uncomfortable doesn't mean impossible. It means I'm expanding, and that one belief will keep you moving when others quit. Now, your attitude also shapes the way you treat people, and that matters more than most people realize, because opportunities come through people. Learning comes through people. Support comes through people, and even healing comes through people. If your attitude is always defensive, always suspicious, always angry, you may protect yourself from a few disappointments, but you will also block the relationships that could have changed your life. A healthy attitude doesn't mean you trust everyone. It means you live with enough humility and emotional control that you can build connections instead of burning bridges. It means you can accept feedback without collapsing. You can hear correction without taking it as an attack. You can disagree without disrespect, and you can stay professional even when you feel emotional. That's maturity, and maturity is an attitude. And if you want to rise in your career, rise in your business, rise in leadership, rise in influence, understand this. People can teach skills, but they hesitate to tolerate bad attitude. A person who is still learning but is teachable, consistent, and solution-focused often goes further than a talented person who is arrogant, negative, or unreliable, because attitude determines whether people want you around when things get hard. And things always get hard at some point. So the person who becomes valuable is not only the person with skills, but the person with character. And character is attitude under pressure. It's easy to be positive when everything is going your way, but your attitude is revealed when you're tired, when you're stressed, when you're overlooked, when you're criticized, when you're delayed, when you're dealing with uncertainty, and that is why you should stop thinking of attitude as how you feel and start thinking of it as how you choose to respond. Now, if you want to change your attitude in a real way, you must change what you feed. Your mind is not a trash can where you can dump negativity all day and still expect peace at night. What you watch, what you listen to, what you scroll, what you repeat, and who you spend time with will either train your attitude upward or pull it downward. If your daily inputs are complaints, gossip, fear, cynicism, and constant comparison, you will slowly become anxious, irritated, and discouraged without even realizing why. But if your inputs are learning, uplifting voices, skill-building content, and conversations with people who talk about solutions, your mind starts to change. And when your mind changes, your behavior changes, and when behavior changes, your life changes. You don't need a perfect life to have a better attitude. You need a protected mind, because a protected mind is not controlled by chaos. And one of the most powerful ways to protect your mind is to change your self-talk, because your internal voice becomes your environment. If you constantly tell yourself, I'm behind, I always fail, I'm not good enough, I can't do it, your brain will treat that as instruction, and you will shrink. You will hesitate, you will avoid, and then you will confirm your own negative story. But if you train your inner voice to speak like a coach instead of a critic, everything changes. A coach doesn't lie to you. A coach doesn't pretend the work is easy. But a coach says you can improve, you can learn, you can try again, you can handle hard things. One step today is still progress. And those sentences might feel simple, but they are powerful because they create movement. The enemy of a better life is not always a big obstacle outside of you. It is often a small sentence inside of you repeated daily. And you can replace those sentences not with fake positivity, but with truth. The truth is you are capable of growth. The truth is effort changes skill. The truth is consistency beats intensity. The truth is you have survived hard days before. The truth is you can start from where you are. And the truth is you do not need to see the whole staircase to take the first step. Now, another attitude shift that changes everything is the shift from comparison to progress. Comparison is a thief because it steals joy and focus at the same time. It makes you look at someone else's highlight reel and then judge your behind the scenes, and that is a guaranteed way to feel discouraged. A winning attitude says, I don't need to be ahead of them. I need to be ahead of who I was. Because life is not a race against other people. It's a commitment to your own potential. And when you focus on your own progress, you gain momentum. Momentum is what many people are missing, not talent. They don't need a miracle. They need momentum. And momentum comes from small actions repeated. And this is where you must understand that the fastest way to build a stronger attitude is to keep small promises to yourself. People often think confidence is something you're born with, but confidence is largely a result of integrity with yourself. When you say you will do something and you do it, you build trust with yourself. When you break promises to yourself, you lose trust with yourself. And a person who doesn't trust themselves struggles to stay consistent because deep down they don't believe their own plans. So start small and stay consistent. You don't have to, transform everything overnight. You have to prove to yourself that you can follow through. Choose one small daily promise and keep it. A walk, a workout, a study session, reading a few pages, practicing a skill, applying for one opportunity, saving a small amount, organizing your documents, cleaning your space, going to bed earlier. The action itself is not the only benefit. The benefit is the identity you build. When you keep one promise to yourself, you start becoming the kind of person who follows through, and that identity changes your attitude, because now you don't see yourself as stuck. You see yourself as building, and when your attitude becomes I am building, you start looking for building blocks instead of excuses. Now, setbacks are guaranteed, and a strong attitude is not the attitude that never faces problems. It's the attitude that interprets problems correctly. The wrong interpretation is, this is happening because I'm not meant to win, or this is proof I should stop. But a stronger interpretation is, this is feedback, this is training, this is a lesson, this is a test of my commitment, because many times life doesn't stop you, it checks whether you really want it, whether you will keep going when it costs you comfort, and the person who passes that check is not always the most gifted, it's often the most persistent. Persistence is an attitude that says, I will not let one moment define me. I will not let one mistake become my identity. I will learn and return. And return is a powerful word because it's what winners do. They return to the plan, return to the habit, return to the goal, return to their values, even after a failure, even after a bad day, even after a setback. And because they return, they eventually outlast the obstacle. Now, there is one more attitude shift that takes people from ordinary to extraordinary, and it's the shift from, how do I get more, to, how do I become more valuable? Because life rewards value. If you want more money, become more valuable. If you want better opportunities, become more valuable. If you want stronger relationships, become more valuable as a partner, as a friend, as a listener, as a communicator. Value is created through service, and a service attitude changes your life because it pulls you out of self-pity and into purpose. Self-pity is a dark room where nothing grows, but purpose is sunlight. When you start asking, who can I help? What problem can I solve? How can I make someone's day easier? How can I bring excellence to my work? You begin to build a reputation, you begin to build trust, you begin to build a network, and you begin to build self-respect because you are no longer just surviving, you are contributing. And contribution is one of the strongest sources of confidence, because confidence is not only believing in yourself, it's seeing yourself create value. And now let's talk to the person who feels overwhelmed, because some of you are not struggling because you're lazy. You're struggling because you're carrying too much. You have family pressure, financial pressure, responsibilities, and a mind that never rests. If that is you, understand that changing your attitude doesn't always mean doing more. Sometimes it means focusing better. It means cutting distractions that drain you. It means learning to say no. It means simplifying your goals into what matters most. It means choosing calm over chaos. It means choosing the next step over the perfect plan. And the next step is where your power is. You don't need to see the entire future. You need to control today. A better attitude says, I will win this day, because life is lived in days, not in decades. Win the morning with a better routine. Win the afternoon with focused work. Win the evening with learning or rest. Win the night with gratitude and planning, and then do it again. And if you do that long enough, you will wake up in a different life. Not because magic happened, but because you became a different person through daily choices. And yes, there will still be unfair moments. There will still be delays. There will still be people who misunderstand you. There will still be rejections. There will still be hard seasons. But your attitude is what keeps those seasons from becoming your identity. The attitude that changes your life is the attitude that can say, this is a bad day, not a bad life. This is a hard season, not my final story. This is a lesson, not a label. This is a detour, not a dead end. And those sentences are not denial. They are discipline, because you are training your mind to stay constructive instead of destructive. And now, I want you to picture your life 1 year from now if you truly changed your attitude starting today. Not by hype, not by emotion, but by discipline. Imagine you stopped feeding your mind constant negativity. Imagine you began your mornings with gratitude and intention. Imagine you replaced complaining with problem solving. Imagine you stopped waiting to feel ready and started showing up anyway. Imagine you kept small promises to yourself until they became big confidence. Imagine you learned a new skill, improved your health, organized your finances, strengthened your relationships, became more professional, became more patient, became more focused, became more resilient. That is not fantasy. That is what happens when you change your attitude, because your attitude changes your behavior, and behavior changes results. And this is why the title is true. Change your attitude, change your life. Not because attitude makes problems disappear, but because attitude makes you the kind of person who can handle problems without being destroyed by them, solve problems without being scared of them, and grow through problems instead of shrinking because of them. So here is the moment that matters. You don't need to wait for the perfect time, because the perfect time is a myth, and waiting is just fear wearing a mask. You need to decide who you're going to be starting now. Decide that you will be responsible even when it's uncomfortable. Decide that you will be grateful even when it's easier to complain. Decide that you will be disciplined even when you don't feel motivated. Decide that you will be courageous even when you are afraid. Decide that you will be teachable even when your ego wants to defend. Decide that you will be consistent even when results are slow. Decide that you will serve because service builds value, and value builds opportunity. And when you fall short, don't fall into shame. Fall into learning, correct the course, and return. Because returning is what champions do. If you can take this message and turn it into one sentence you live by, let it be this: I can't control everything that happens, but I can control the attitude I bring to what happens, and the attitude I bring will shape the life I build. Say it again and make it personal. I can't control everything that happens, but I can control me. And from this moment forward, choose the attitude that builds, not the attitude that breaks. Choose the attitude that learns, not the attitude that blames. Choose the attitude that moves, not the attitude that waits. Choose the attitude that becomes, not the attitude that excuses. Because the day you truly change your attitude is the day your life gets a new direction. And direction, repeated daily, becomes destiny.